Can visiting sites of tragedy be justified? And who gets to decide? From ancient ruins buckling under millions of footsteps, to nuclear wastelands rebranded as adventure destinations, we are counting down 8 of the world's most ethically charged memorial sites, each one ranked by how it balances remembrance against commercialization, education against spectacle. The tension only escalates as we climb, starting at number 8, a harbor that became a shrine. 8th place, Pearl Harbor National Memorial stands at the intersection of national memory and local heritage. Each year, around 1.59 million people visit this site, drawn by the story of December 7, 1941, a date marked as both tragedy and turning point in American history. Managed by the United States National Park Service, the memorial combines open-air monuments and museum exhibits, carefully structured to foster reflection and restraint. Yet beneath the surface, there is a quieter debate. Native Hawaiian voices remind us that these waters, once known as Waimomi and Puloa, carry centuries of meaning beyond military sacrifice. While the National Park Service has taken steps to consult with indigenous communities, some argue that the dominant narrative still centers on American patriotism, leaving local perspectives in the margins. Visitors are asked to approach with respect, remembering that the story told here is layered, part shrine, part contested ground, always demanding thoughtful presence. Number 7. Alcatraz Island draws nearly 1.5 million visitors each year, transforming the former penitentiary into one of the National Park Service's most lucrative attractions. Here, the experience is shaped by carefully scripted audio tours and a private concession model with ferries, guides, and even the gift shop operated by contractors, blending heritage with commerce at every turn. Indigenous activists occupied the island from 1969 to 1971, demanding land reclamation and cultural recognition. This episode is now acknowledged in National Park Service exhibits, but it remains the subject of ongoing debate. As souvenir sales and entertainment value rise, visitors face an uneasy question: how to engage responsibly with a site where memory, spectacle, and profit intersect so visibly. Number 6. Pompeii. Archaeological Park stands as a paradox of preservation and exposure. Each year, more than 4 million people traverse its ancient streets, drawn by the haunting imprint of catastrophe frozen in volcanic ash. To protect the fragile ruins, the Italian Ministry of Cultural Heritage enforces a daily cap of 20,000 visitors, a measure that speaks to the mounting strain on stone, mosaic, and mural. Entrance fees fund ongoing restorations, with scaffolds and conservation teams now a permanent fixture in the landscape. The debate over whether to reconstruct collapsed structures or let them remain as open wounds is ongoing. UNESCO's reversibility principle guides every intervention, insisting that any restoration must be possible to undo, so that future generations can make their own judgments about authenticity. Some argue for rebuilding lost houses to recapture the city's former life, while others warn that too much intervention risks erasing the very sense of absence that gives Pompeii its power. In this setting, responsible visitation means not only following the rules, but recognizing the limits of access. The challenge is to witness without overwhelming, and to remember that every footprint leaves a trace. Number 5. Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum stands as both a site of remembrance and a living institution shaped by survivor voices. More than 2 million people crossed its threshold in fiscal year 2024, a record for any nuclear remembrance venue. The museum operates under the city of Hiroshima, with a semi-public foundation overseeing daily curation, outreach, and the careful vetting of every exhibit. What sets Hiroshima apart is its survivor-centered approach. Hibakusha retain control over their testimonies, with each oral history requiring formal consent and the right to withdraw at any time. This process is not a bureaucratic formality, but a moral contract, ensuring that trauma is not appropriated for spectacle. Peace education events and reconciliation programs fill the calendar, inviting visitors to move beyond passive observation toward active reflection. The museum's governance structure foregrounds descendant and survivor authority, offering a model of ethical stewardship that resists the pull of commodification. For those who visit, the challenge is to listen deeply, honor consent, and recognize that memory here is not a static display, but an ongoing act of moral negotiation. Number 4. Koyeong-ek Killing Fields stands as one of the world's most visited genocide memorials, drawing more than 500,000 international visitors each year. The site's most visible marker is the stupa filled with thousands of human skulls, a stark artifact that refuses to let memory fade. Interpretation here is shaped by a partnership between the Cambodian Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts and the Documentation Center of Cambodia, an NGO founded by survivor descendants. This joint management brings a measure of local agency, with educational audio guides offered in multiple languages and survivor narratives foregrounded in the official tour. The guides do not shy away from the reality of the Khmer Rouge atrocities, but they also ask visitors to consider their own role as witnesses. For many, the experience is less about passive observation and more about being confronted by a legacy that is still contested and raw. The tension between remembrance, education, and the pressures of growing tourism remains unresolved. Yet, the presence of survivor and descendant voices in site governance offers a model for how national memory can be stewarded with care, even as the world looks on. Number 3. The Chernobyl exclusion zone has become a focal point for the uneasy intersection of disaster, adventure, and remembrance. Since 2023, tour bookings have surged by as much as 40%, a trend fueled in part by the site's persistent media presence and the lure of experiencing a forbidden landscape firsthand. Access remains tightly regulated. Only visitors with a government-issued permit may enter, and every group must travel with an accredited guide, passing through multiple checkpoints where personal dosimeters are mandatory. The State Emergency Service enforces strict protocols. Daily exposure is capped at levels far below international safety limits, and any breach of the prescribed routes can trigger fines or prosecution. Yet, these controls have not quelled controversy. Social media is filled with images of tourists posing among the ruins, sparking a wave of selfie shaming and raising questions about whether the site's tragic legacy is being reduced to a backdrop for thrill-seeking. Tour operators now face pressure to balance educational programming with the demands of a growing adventure market. For those who do visit, the challenge is to move beyond spectacle, to recognize the ongoing risks, respect the memory of those affected, and ask what it means to bear witness in a place where disaster has become commodity. Responsible visitation begins with understanding the rules, but it does not end there. The real test lies in how each visitor chooses to interpret the silence and the scars left behind. Coming to the top 3, the 9/11 Ground Zero Memorial and Museum occupies a space where collective grief, civic remembrance, and commercial ambition meet in uneasy proximity. The memorial's twin reflecting pools sit within the footprint of the fallen towers, bordered by a retail and office complex that signals Lower Manhattan's resurgence. In 2024, more than 2.4 million people passed through the museum's doors, while the outdoor plaza drew 11.6 million visits. Numbers that make Ground Zero one of the most visited memorial sites in the world. Stewardship falls to a non-profit, public-private partnership, blending city funding, corporate sponsorship, and ticket revenue to sustain both the museum and the surrounding development. This hybrid model has sparked debate over the boundaries between sacred ground and urban commerce, as the memorial's solemn architecture stands shoulder to shoulder with bustling shops and cafes. Curatorial choices, from the display of personal artifacts to the scripting of guided tours, are scrutinized for their sensitivity and intent. Some argue that the site's proximity to everyday business risks diluting its sanctity, while others see the coexistence of memory and daily life as a testament to resilience. The question remains whether it is possible to honor tragedy in a place that also serves as a commercial hub, or if the pressures of mass visitation and economic necessity inevitably reshape the meaning of remembrance. And finally, in first place, Auschwitz-Birkenau stands as the ultimate crucible for the ethics of dark tourism. In 2024, the site received 1.83 million visitors, an unrelenting stream of presence in a place where absence is the very point. The Polish Ministry of Culture oversees every aspect of the state-run museum, enforcing a ticketing system that requires advance reservation, timed entry, and, for most, a guided-only route. Photography is permitted only in designated areas, with strict bans in the barracks and at the execution wall, underscoring the site's refusal to become a backdrop for casual documentation. At the heart of Auschwitz's dilemma lies the tension between memory and commodification. The existence of an on-site gift shop selling books, postcards, even replica barbed wire has sparked fierce debate among survivors, descendants, and ethicists. Some see these items as tools for education and remembrance. Others argue they risk trivializing the suffering that unfolded on these grounds. Decision-making power rests with a council of survivor representatives, museum professionals, and government officials, each negotiating the boundary between historical stewardship and the pressures of mass tourism. For visitors, responsible presence begins with a self-restraint. Observe the silence, follow the rules, resist the urge to collect souvenirs. The checklist for ethical visitation is simple but profound. Arrive with humility, listen to survivor testimony, and remember that every step here is a step across a grave. At Auschwitz, the stakes of remembrance are at their highest, and the line between honoring the past and exploiting it is drawn with painful clarity. Across all these sites, one pattern emerges. Memory and meaning are always contested in places marked by suffering. The tension between honoring loss and inviting visitors never dissolves. In the end, how we witness tragedy, respectfully or recklessly, remains an open question, shaping not just the sites, but ourselves.